So, Hamilton ended up winning in the end. Hi guys, it's Spot666 here, and we've just finished the race for the Bahrain Grand Prix, and holy shit, what a race to start off the beginning of this season. It was just the wheel-to-wheel battle that we all wanted to see. Hamilton versus Verstappen, different strategies at play. What an opener. What an opening to this new Formula One season. So I'm going to start from the top to the bottom based on how they finished last year. So without further ado, let's kick off with Mercedes. Now, if you asked me, I think yesterday I said that they were prepared to accept P2 or P3, but for them to get P1 in the way they did, beating Verstappen on track, GG's. Well done, Sir Lewis Hamilton. I think given the fact that those hard tyres, I mean, they've done pretty much half the race distance, so they weren't going to be in any kind of fit state at all. And then he comes out with Verstappen, who's got 10-lap younger hard tyres on, and he didn't end up passing the race. I think that was quite respectful for Verstappen to let go. I think there was actually an instruction from the pit wall there to let him go, but Lewis Hamilton, this is why he's rated as high as it is. I mean, he pulls out winning results where we didn't feel like they were particularly possible. So well done to him. Valtteri Bottas, on the other hand, a bit of a quiet, you could say quite mediocre race. On paper, it will say P3, fastest lap as well. So only dropped 2 points to Max Verstappen, but I think it was generally he was just sort of on the heels, but he wasn't quite there. With the other two, which if he is in some ways a second place driver, then he's got to be up there to sort of capitalise if anything does go wrong with Lewis and Verstappen. I mean, needless to say about how Valtteri's pit stop went, that was an absolute Germany 2019 level of bad. It put Valtteri purely out of contention, in no way near in a position to pick anything up should anything go wrong with the other two then. But suppose at that point you pit stop, you do the fast lap, that's the best you probably could have got. So Mercedes, I think they'll be very satisfied with how this weekend went out for them. However, I wouldn't say the same thing though about Red Bull, because for one half of the grid, you have Max Verstappen, who, as much as Hamilton won the race, this was a race Verstappen lost. He had the pace, he had the car, he just didn't quite have the time and the luck, I think. I'm questioning still why they left him out for so long on the medium tyre if his pace was still good. I can see the logic of it at the time, it just didn't play out well in the long run. It was so damn close. It was so goddamn close for Verstappen and Lewis to be as close as they were. And it was about, I think it's about 5/10 when they went over the finishing line. I think the overtake outside of track limits, which the rule, I have to say, I think the ruling for that has been very inconsistent at this time around. They ended up relinquishing the position to Lewis Hamilton. He tried again to pass him on track and it just didn't work out. I think that rattled him. I think that definitely rattled Max Verstappen to a point where he tried, the car was sliding around the place and just couldn't make most of it. So he'll be really fired up for next time out in, I think it's Imola. Yeah, we are in Imola. Perez, brilliant recovery drive. And I was at P11, I was expecting him to finish around sort of P4, P5. But to do it when your car basically gives up on you on the first, on the formation lap, well done, Sergio Perez. I wish if he could get his qualifying sorted, he could very well be up there. Almost a third place part between him and Bottas at least. But needless to say, you could also match Verstappen and Hamilton on pace. Who knows with Sergio Perez? But brilliant tyre management. It got P5, which I think is the best he could have done in all those circumstances. So well done to Sergio Perez. But Red Bull, they're going to be kicking themselves, and they'll be looking to bounce back next time. Now on to McLaren. Fantastic drive from Lando Norris. Very consistent. Was there doing literally everything that he needed to do. I mean, he started P7, got straight, overtook Ricciardo, and then Gasly obviously had his problems with Ricciardo, so that took him out of the race. Past Charles Leclerc. Brilliant drive. All I can say, brilliant drive from Lando Norris. Daniel Ricciardo, I think he'll be wanting a little bit more from the race last time. To be outgunned, I think, by Sergio Perez. Fair enough, he's in a Red Bull, so he's probably going to be a little bit faster than you. But to be beaten by Leclerc, I think that'll fire him up to really come back for Imola. But all things considered, McLaren, they look to be in a solid P3, I think, for the championship. Like I said, like I said, the fight's really going to be with Ferrari. He'll be losing out. He lost out a little bit during the race there, but I think that really kind of sets the tone for what a good race, a good season rather, we could look to potentially have in 2021. So top job there, I think, from the McLaren boys. Now looking at Aston Martin, on paper it doesn't look like that the weekend went particularly well. I think they were hit. I think because Otmar Safnauer actually mentioned it in the race. I think they were hit very much by the new regulations affecting sort of lower rate versus high rate cars. I think the Racing Point car last year was quite low rate, kind of based off last year's Mercedes. So they've dropped down to, I think, at about 6th or 7th place car at the moment. Lance Stroll's drive, very consistent, got the most out of the machinery, got it into the points. Sebastian Vettel, though, not particularly good as well. I think I think this was a really disappointing day for Vettel, because this is the one where he had fresh set tyres. This is a really chance for him to really come back, really start to reinvent himself, and unfortunately it just didn't look to be there. It's just everything just seemed to go wrong, will go wrong. And then he had his incident with Esteban Ocon that he accused the Frenchman of cutting across on him, but all he did was took his place in the racing line and tend to turn into the corner. So that incident, 100% Sebastian's fault. I think that day was almost kind of like a write-off. It's more of a day, actually, no, I wouldn't say write-off, more of a day to sit down and sort of kind of reflect on yourself. You think you've got to be careful. You've got to sort of stop overcompensating. Yeah, you're a 4-time world champion, but just look at the here and now. That's where you're really, really going to perform. That's where you're going to really have a good day. So Aston Martin, still plenty of work to do for these guys. I wouldn't say it was I was kind of expecting them to at least be up in the high midfield, but it's not quite to play out for the Aston Martin boys. Alpine, on the other hand, no points scored. Fernando Alonso, he was doing very well in the lower end of the points, which was kind of good, because I think in practice and ever since he announced, I've almost sort of forgot that Fernando was there. But to see him fight back with I think Kimi Raikkonen, with Carlos Sainz as well, I think with Daniel Ricciardo at times as well, he's still got it. He's still very much got it. He's not going to be in a position to win titles in that kind of car, but maybe in 2022 possibly. So it's gutting to see him retire. I think the tyres gave up on him as well. We put him out of the points. Then his brakes went as well, so he had to come into the pits. So Esteban Ocon, though, a quiet race of sort of nothing, really, and it doesn't really says a lot about the guy's talent. Because as soon as he got into Force India, he had a great first season, always consistently in the points, but he's kind of sort of faded a bit, and it's not really the sort of race he needed to look like one of the sort of stars for the future, really. And I don't think the car's there with Alpine. I don't think the car is there worthy of the two drivers. And Fernando Alonso's got a reputation of taking, like I said in my previous video, taking hay and turning it into gold. Esteban Ocon, he's not going to obviously have the experience enough to do the same thing, but he just needs to keep driving and keep biding his time, learn one or two things, and then we can expect some better results from him. So just wasn't a good day for. Well, Ferrari, though, much more encouraging here, much more encouraging. It's more like it with Charles Leclerc in P6, which is they just lost the battle straight up with McLaren. To be fair, they lost the battle between himself, Charles Leclerc, and Lando Norris, and then you had Sergio Perez overtaking him in the last sort of 2 laps or so, which is obviously going to be faster. So I think Leclerc probably got the most of what they could out of that drive today. Carlos Sainz a little bit further down. He was on Ricciardo's heels, sort of nipping at his heels for P7, which I think would have wanted. The thing is, it wasn't a bad debut, I think, from Carlos Sainz, but I think he would have wanted a little bit more. I want to see him and Leclerc really together, like wheel to wheel. But to get used to the car and the way that it drives, and because it would have been an evolution of what happened last year, which was completely different to the McLaren, I would say solid drive there from him. Wasn't too bad a drive from Carlos Sainz or Charles Leclerc. P6 and P8, anything's going to be better than last year, though. So all they got to do now is just build on it and just take the fight to McLaren in the next few races. Now, AlphaTauri, on the other hand, talk about going from hero to zero, because you had a car. You have a car there that's got quite a lot of pace. Make no mistake. You had Gasly as well in P5. Unfortunately, he lost his wing behind Daniel Ricciardo, which took him out basically out of the race. He ended up pulling to the pits with a few laps to go. Just didn't go his way. There will be ruining missed opportunities. I think there'll be definitely be ruining missed opportunities. But Yuki Tsunoda, on the other hand, debut race, scored points. Can't really ask for anything more than the young Japanese driver. He was, I think it was very convincing. He was definitely not afraid to get his elbows out when he needed to, not afraid to make any overtakes when he needed to as well. I think he ended up passing Lance Stroll as well for P9, which was a very encouraging result. So it's still a story of what could have been as a whole for AlphaTauri. Got a fast car, 2 fast drivers. That's the best sort of positives they can take going into the next race in Imola. So good times, they are a coming. Alfa Romeo, though, I think they'll be reaping the changes that Ferrari made with their engine, which is undoubtedly giving them a little bit more pace. You got Giovinazzi and Raikkonen. I think it was quite close between the two. I think it was quite close. I think they're a solid. They're very visible 8th best overall because they're not going to be. They may be nipping at the heels of Alpine, which I would say are about 6th or 7th fastest at the moment, alongside sort of Aston Martin. So I think they know stably where they are in terms of the grid. But not really much else to say. I mean, they'll be wanting 1 or 2 points eventually, but it's not going to come. It just didn't happen to them today. Now, Haas, which was, well, to put it mildly, it was just a load of shit. Nikita Mazepin, his race was over after a few corners. I thought he might have been collided into somebody, and he ended up spinning out and ruining his race on the first few corners, which, we'll put it this way, I mean, it's not really good, particularly. No, it's not particularly good. But things like that are always going to happen with rookies in Formula 1. They're going to make silly mistakes like that, so you just got to pick yourself up and unfortunately move on. The pace of the car didn't look particularly strong either. I think Mick Schumacher as well, he also had his spin, which kind of sealed him at the bottom place of the grid. It's more like just getting mileage, I think, for the rookies going into 2022. So it's not really much else to say with Haas other than you just stare at the back. Unfortunately, you're it feels like they're making up the numbers and giving your rookies mileage at this point is the best thing you can do. And I feel like I can say the similar thing about Williams going up. Because you had George Russell, who is for a little bit of the race sat in 10th place for the points, but the car is it's easily between Haas and Alfa Romeo in terms of pace. It's easily a 9th place car. It's definitely going to be hard for them to score points, but we all know it's going to take time for the new investors to actually reap some rewards and benefits within the team. So Latifi and Russell, you can't really ask much else of them just to get the just apart from getting the most out of the car and score points where you can, really. So like Haas, it's sort of like not really much to say for Williams. It's just a waiting game, waiting for all their rewards to come through after the investments that they make. So hopefully times they are a changing for both of those teams. Absolutely. So I suppose my final thoughts on the race was that overall it was a fantastic opener. What we've got is the heavyweight fight is set for the rest of the season. You got Max Verstappen, the young gun, the immensely talented, looking to probably be the dominant force in years to come, versus the GOAT, Lewis Hamilton. 2 completely different cars, one obviously faster than the other at this point. Strategy really making the difference here. I was on the edge of my seat over the last few laps to think, this is the fight that we want to see. This is the one that's going to make people stand up off their chairs and bite their nails and keep your fingers crossed and hope you didn't put too much on the losing guy in the bet. I don't know where I was going with that. Anyway. And we have a while to wait now before the next race at Imola, which I think is 3 weeks away. So I think for now it's going to be a lot of gaming and sort of league racing videos from then. So there we go then, that's my sort of roundup of the race going forward for there. So it'll be interesting to see what everybody else's thoughts were on this race at Bahrain. So if you want to get involved, if you want to have a nice discussion about the race, then please leave a comment in the video as well. Hit that like and hit that subscribe button. I think go on, you know you want to. And it's going to be a fascinating season, and this is something I'm looking to do a lot more. So it will be lovely to have you as part of the community and part of just part of the channel, really, just so I can we can mingle with each other. Let's get a bit of talk going. Let's get a bit of community start going around the channel. So thank you all so much for watching this video. I've been Spark666, and thank you all once again. I will see you guys for my next league racing highlights. For those of you who don't know, I am on Twitch from 7:30 till 9:30. I'm streaming my race with a part of the APS Racing League. Be sure to stick around for that. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. See you later. Bye-bye.